was a big, big breakthrough. And before I talk a little bit more about how I got more trust from these guys, what happened is I was up at NASA Ames. I got connected to a very specific person, and that person had me fly out and meet them. So this is where it gets really interesting. So I go out to a certain city, and I land at the airport, and I walk through security, and I meet this person. The person takes me to a restaurant that's right past security, and I go to the back of the restaurant. There's nobody in that area, and we sit at a booth for 2 hours. And while we're sitting there, he leans across the table, and this is the very first words that were said to me. It was the Cold War, and every single day we lived under the threat of nuclear war. Every single day we believed and really thought in the deepest part of our souls that nuclear war could happen at any given moment. And then he stops, and he goes, and somewhere in those years, and he looked me in the eye, he goes, we found a life form. And everything that we did and every decision that we made with that life form was because of the consciousness at that time. And I said, sir, when taking into account things that this life form has done, for example, turning our nuclear weapons on and readying them for launch, and then he interrupts me, puts a finger in my face and says, there are heroes in Russia, heroes. And under grave risk to himself and to his country, they did not fire back. And at that moment, I realized it already started. This new game I was in of working with people in like a dance of words, and information was already coming. There was no like small talk. Like we didn't just sit down and just say, hey, let's have a beer and let's like get to know each other.
So let's jump back to that. Let's jump back to that conversation. It was the Cold War. I mean, he's given you sort of the setting for how the cover-up, or what we'd call the cover-up, began.
Yeah, so this is very important for people to remember, and this is where I'm so excited to start chopping down all these pathetic conspiracies that I was involved in as well. It was the Cold War. He's saying that every day they really thought about the annihilation of all mankind with these weapons that were hundreds or thousands of times bigger than what we dropped on Japan, and we had 20,000 each of those things. And all of a sudden, something falls on their laps that's just extraordinary, But even further than that, if you really hear what I'm saying about the nuclear weapons, the UFOs were turning our weapons on, and just so Russia could pick up that we're firing our missiles and fire theirs first. It was a big chess game. So these guys went into complete secrecy to start coming up with a defense system against this phenomenon. Now, I try to tell people some analogies on this. Imagine if someone from the CIA came to your house and sat on your couch and says, hey, I want to tell you about that nuclear weapon that they tried to smuggle in through Canada 2 months ago. And I also want to tell you about this, virus that almost got released in Los Angeles. And I want to, all these they're not going to do that, because they're going to be busy trying to figure out to find the people that did it, or to seal off the borders, or to come up with a game plan to get better defensive measures across our our country, and whatever they're doing. That's how this is. That's how big this issue is. They're not worried about if you and I totally understand, because they're too busy trying to understand it and come up with a way to defend against it. And at the same time, they really want people to understand this, to know these things, but they don't want it to mess up their efforts. The more that I started to find out, I thought it was a pretty heroic tale, that these were really good men and women. Do you know that in that first conversation that I had with that general, during the 2 hours, I didn't even leave the airport. I was in this back booth, and then I'd go through security, get on a plane, go right back home. It was a crazy meeting, but during that, he must have brought up what was best for the quote, best for the republic, best for the free republic. He brought that up probably 8 different times. It's very, very, very important to these men what is best for the United States as a free country, free-thinking man, and the republic that we built. They're not these crazies running around trying to war. They're not warmongers, Very smart. This person has multiple PhDs, and I wish I could tell you who he is and what he. There was nobody above him. There's nobody. Maybe a couple, but when you look at the divisions of how the Department of Defense works, and this specific division, it's just extraordinary that I have this contact. So I started using it as much as I could. So taking it from that point, we talked for 2 hours, and I said, "Sir, I need an advisory committee," and we walked through what I need and why. And so he went out and got the advisors for me. What was really interesting about this is that I started getting advisors that were in different areas, people that deal with space, people that deal with intelligence, people that deal with biowarfare, stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think I should need, but I got them, and now I had the ability to start pulling these people together, and I had this one really interesting contact out in Washington, D.C. that was connected to the highest levels of government. That's how I can say it. And so I was able to pull off a coup in regards to what anybody in this field has ever been able to pull off, which was a conversation with not only my advisors, the most important group of the advisors, and somebody representing basically the highest levels of the land, and talking about how do we do something to help the youth understand that this is a reality, but that they're doing really good work, and they could use the empowerment. They could use the citizens of the United States and the world understanding why it's been kept secret, and that they're not doing it out of malicious reasons. They're doing it because it's an ongoing task. It's an ongoing issue, and they don't fully understand it yet, but they're trying their hardest and spending lots of money and have the brightest minds that they can find, and they're building things, and they're having breakthroughs that I think, frankly, we would all be incredibly proud of as a nation, of what